Okay, let's start that back over. So we'll get started here in a minute, but what I want to give, my goal for this video, and if it goes well, I'm happy to hop on and do more in the future, but is to give everybody like the basics to get started. So I know a lot of people have expressed interest in doing it, just not knowing how to get started. So I thought this would be very easy. I'll give you the equipment that I use, the basic stuff to get started. You can always go bigger. I'll give you pluses and minuses of each, and then I'll pull up iMovie, which is what I use to edit the videos. And my hope is to show you first how easy it is to do it, and then secondly, kind of give you some things that I've learned that's taken some time, and then some pointers I think give the video a little bit of production quality, and then you can kind of go from there. Now, I don't know if every editing software is going to operate the same way as iMovie, but this is just what I know. Bill Winterberg's been trying to sell me on Final Cut Pro, and I did a 30-day download and let like 29 days go by before I played around with it. And honestly, I was a little overwhelmed when I got into it. It looks very similar to iMovie, but I couldn't figure everything out, so I just jumped out of it because I felt like I would, for right now, stay where I'm comfortable because it's getting the job done. And I'll share a little bit with kind of how I view video and its role in what we do. And hang on. And then that dictates kind of my approach to editing and how I want to do things. So we'll get going here in one more minute. I'll officially kick it off. And then feel free to throw questions up in the chat room. I've got those. And then at the very end, if there's questions, I think I can unmute people and let you ask the question yourself. So I'm hoping for an hour. I'll stay longer if need be, if the conversation's going and questions are good. I think I can get it done much sooner than that, and I want to respect everybody's Friday afternoon. So we'll go that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get it kicked off. I'll keep an eye out for people coming in. And again, I'll probably, if people come in, I'll remind them that I'm recording this. So in theory, everything that I'm showing you should also show up in the recording on Zoom, so it'll cut back and forth. We'll see. If not, I'll figure out, do some editing to put the screens up I would want you to see just to help out later on. But I just want to thank everybody for taking time to do this. I don't know, it's humbling that you guys think I know a little something to be able to help out. And if you can't tell this from my interactions on Twitter, I operate under, if you're winning, I'm winning, we're all in this together. I want to help as many advisors as I can. Selfishly, I have a personal goal that my YouTube channel is a resource for clients and people coming in. So the more good content I can help you guys produce, the more I can put on that channel, which would be a better resource for my clients and people that are coming to it. So the only selfish motivation I have in this is I need more good financial content to put on my YouTube page to make it a better resource for people. I don't want the YouTube to be all just me. So that's why I love having these conversations. I've had a lot of success with video as far as feedback, people watching it, liking it. My numbers continue to tick up, so that means I think that's a good sign. But let's just start from the square one basics, recording video and how do you do it? What equipment do you need? Now there's real expensive equipment out there that you can get. You can go crazy. The way I look at it is, why don't you grow into that stuff and let's start with the basics. Realistically, you could do a lot with just your iPhone. There's plenty of people who are running YouTube stuff out there, making a lot of money off of advertising, and everything is just based off of using their iPhone. The camera's good enough there. I think that there's some limitations to being able to prop the iPhone up and everything. But so the camera that I use is a Canon G7X Mark II, and I'll figure out some way to put that information out there. But it's just basically a small little portable camera. I actually have two of them. Bring it with me. I have one in my backpack at all times. I want to be prepared to be able to record video whenever. So actually the video that I'm going to use to cut up was a prime example of being with a couple other advisors and saying, hey, let's shoot a video. And I had everything with me to be able to put together a video. So the Canon is just a digital camera. It records in 4K. The only downside to cameras like this is that they will only record for around 20 minutes before they shut off. And it took me a while to figure out why, but the reason is if a digital camera records for more, I think that it's 25 minutes is the cutoff, so they cut it short. If it goes for more than 25 minutes, it's considered a camcorder, which has new tariffs and taxes and things associated with it. So these cameras keep themselves underneath that. I'm honestly considering, with the amount of video I'm doing and doing podcasting and recording those, getting an actual camcorder so I don't have to pause in my interview, run over, restart the camera, and come back. But if you're going to be shooting short videos, a camera like this is going to be perfect. It shoots very well. I found this by Googling best vlogging camera, and it was basically the camera that every website rated as one. I think Casey Neistat is a huge YouTube person. He uses it, so I felt if those guys are using it and the success they're having, surely a financial advisor who's doing a few videos every once in a while, this will be good enough for me. The reason I got two, the very first camera I got is actually at home. I got a Panasonic DSLR, which is a bigger camera, and I didn't want to lug it around, so I got the first Canon, and I started to try to get fancy and do two camera angles on an interview and splice those together to have cutaways to make it look a little bit more professional. And what I realized was the lighting or just the recording of them was off enough. The Panasonic was a little bit more yellow. The Canon was a lot more clear, and I couldn't figure out how to make them look the same, and it bothered me that they didn't match. So I scrapped it, got the same camera for each, so I know the quality is the same. Realistically, you don't need to do that. Having cutaways is cool. I don't know how much more value it brings to the experience, and it adds more work to the editing. So start from day one. Just get one camera, stand it up, get a tripod. Another thing that I would recommend considering if you're going to be recording on the road is there's this Rode. I'm trying to hold it up there. Basically, it's a Rode lapel mic set, and it plugs into your iPhone. I think it might work on Androids as well. But basically, you plug it in. There's an app. I'll also find a way to put some show notes out there, or you can email me, and I'll send you the exact equipment and the name for it. But it's RODE is Rode. It's a microphone company. Two lapels. They plug into this little adapter here. It goes into your iPhone. There's an app, and that records the sound. Then you stop it, and you can export it, and then you can line. I'm going to show you how to line the sound up in iMovie. And why would you want to do this? Another reason I'm going to show you the video I did today, we're outside, and I had to post the camera far away. So another downside to the Canon, it only has its own microphone. So it's going to record. I never use another mic when I'm in my office. The mic on this is good enough to pick everything up when it's not a lot of background noise. But when I was in California outside, it was windy, it was distorted. And somebody told me that, or I read somewhere, that with video, it doesn't matter if they can see you clearly if they can't hear you and understand you. You can get by with lesser quality video if they can hear you and understand what you're saying, which might seem backwards, but it makes sense. Who cares how nice the video looks if I can't hear and understand you? So I would recommend getting these lapel mics. The only awkward thing maybe is how close you have to stand to your guest because it all feeds into one and the wires aren't that long, but not a big deal. So I've used those a handful of times. When I was in California, it was 3 of us. I actually just plugged these into the phone, and I just set it on the table and put the mics kind of in the center so it picked up all of us, so we weren't even wearing them. But if you have that camera and a tripod, you have these little remote or the lapel mics, you've got everything you need to get going. So I think once you get the equipment, the hardest part of all this is getting comfortable in front of the camera and being comfortable, talking about it. My approach, you do it how you want to do it. I view myself as a financial advisor first. I'm not a media person. I'm not a news person. So I don't think it's fair for the expectations for what I put out in the form of video content to be perfect. So I aim for good information. I want the information to be worked, the facts to be right, my messaging to be on. But if there's hiccups in the audio, if there's hiccups in the video, I'm going to be okay with it. I try to go one shot and done, meaning once I get going and I don't mess up in the very beginning, I don't want to stop and start. I've had to do it a few times, but the reason for that is keeping my editing process as short as possible. If you can get your message out in one run, then all you're doing is chopping off the beginning of the end, and then you're done. But if you've got to stop and start, it doesn't take a lot of time, but I'm just trying to make it easier. It doesn't always work out that way, but usually for me, it's if I get past the first couple minutes, first few sentences, I'm good. I usually mess up at the very beginning, and then once I hit my groove, I'm off and going. But everybody's going to be different. But you can look at a lot of other YouTube people, and you can tell when they're stopping and starting. There's nothing wrong with that. They're just going to add time to your editing. And my goal for all of this is to keep my editing time as minimal as possible. So with that being said, real quick, does anybody have any questions to throw in the message about the equipment? If not, I think iMovie is where you're most interested in seeing, but I just wanted to kind of give the basics on that. Hang on one sec. All right, Blake, what you got? Let me try to unmute you.
I'm unmuted.
All right, I hear you.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for doing this. No, it's good. Do you use like my secret like weapon that I like to use in addition to iMovie? I've got a similar setup is Keynote, like building movies in Keynote using the green screen effect. And I can overlay and drop things in, and then you export it as a movie, and then you import that clip into iMovie and overlay it over your video track wherever you want. And that's been like a pretty cool thing too. I don't know how familiar you are with Keynote, but I use that a lot.
I've never used it for that, and honestly, I didn't even know that you could do that. So that gives me something to look into. Like I said, if you're late getting on, and before we started, I said Blake should be the one running this because
no, you do a great job. I'm always ready to learn, always. So no, that's cool. I'm glad you're doing it. And but yeah, Keynote is a great way to like if you want to. You build it on the third darkest screen option as a background, and then you could just put anything you want. And then you animate within Keynote, and you export it as a movie, and it's like a short video clip, and then you can overlay it on top of what you're doing in iMovie, and it really makes a big difference. And back to your point about Final Cut. Like when I used to use Photoshop a lot, I use GIMP now because it's free and it's it does what I need it to do. But when I used Photoshop, like back in the day, it was like I used it for like 5% of like what it would do. It was like pointless to have all that extra work. So that's kind of what I felt with Final Cut. Like your experience, like you kind of get like lost in how much it can do, and maybe it would make some things easier. But I've got more patience with iMovie at this point. So,
Yeah, and I think that to that point, I think when you find something you're comfortable with, and unless you're really needing to up that production value to do something, like if you're really going all in and you now want to try to be a YouTube sensation, then maybe you need to do more. But I think if your goal is to record content to be able to put it out in video form, then you probably can get by with some of the more basic stuff. Because even the basic stuff has some good built-ins, and then you can do some things like the Keynote, or there's some other sites out there that you can upload pictures or videos to. I can't think of the name. I just started using it to put the captions on. I'll find the name of it and put it in. But it's like $20 a month, unlimited videos, and basically I have to use Rev to feed the audio through, and that gives me a file that I put into this other software, and it puts the caption on.
Nice.
Captions especially for like LinkedIn and Instagram and even Twitter are pretty important because a lot of people are watching our stuff at work when they're supposed to be working.
What are you talking about?
Right. So I don't plan on today getting into those extra things, but maybe that'll be video or Zoom movie another time. Is kind of okay. What's the next step? Once you get the video going and you get it out there and you've got the basics down, what are some other things to kind of up the production value of putting things out? So, all right. So I'm gonna thanks Blake for the Keynote thing. I'm definitely gonna check it out. And maybe if I mess around with it enough, I may get you on a Zoom. We'll record it and we'll do a collaboration for how to use Keynote in your video.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm gonna mute you back up.
All right.
Okay, so let's get into iMovie because, like I said, I think that is where a lot of the questions lie: is how do you edit things? Because once you get past getting in front of the camera, seeing yourself, hearing yourself, it's okay. And honestly, I edit my video and I never watch them again. So because I hate hearing myself and seeing myself. So I get it done and then I don't watch them ever again. All right, so let's get iMovie. Okay, so now you see my iMovie. Let me minimize something real quick to make it easier to see. Okay, So this is like when you log into iMovie. And again, I think you're going to have different formats depending on what you use. But at the end of the day, I think the execution will be very similar amongst all of them. So these are old videos that I have. What I did was I created one that is blank canvas. What I did do though is I already inputted the data or the film and everything we're going to use. To go to step one, if you need to add the files into iMovie, this little arrow up here is what you will click. And that's going to bring up, oh, so you can't see it. So that's going to bring up your files. I'm going to drag it over to see better. Well, if you look over here, here's where your files would be. And you just go find whatever that is that you want. You click it, click import all, and then that brings it into the file. So then you have it as an option to choose. So now that we're in here, here's all of the things that I want to use to create this video. And I kept some things in there. So I want to show you the basic that, let's say you're recording in the office. You don't need to worry about audio lining up. Here's how you do that video. That's the most simplistic. And then, hang on, we got somebody coming in. Okay. And then I'll show you on this outside video, here's how I got everything to line up and put the volume in and drag things around. So if you're recording outside, here's how you can get that video with sound so you eliminate some of the background noise. And then the final thing I'll show you is if you wanted to make your own intro, outro, I'm not going to show you how to pull in a bunch of things, but how I just do the cut, put the transition in, cut, and put the wording in. So I'll kind of give you three quick edits that will basically allow you to edit if you're outside, inside, and then create your own intro if you want to do that. So all you do at this point is drag things down. So I know that this is, let's see, I make sure. This is my intro. So you just get it yellow and you drag it down. And then that's going to be the introduction. And I'll show you how I put this together. But basically all I did was go back to a bunch of different videos, clipped up some things, saved them as files, imported them into here, dragged them down, and put transitions. So I'll show you that later. But this is my intro. You don't necessarily need a fancy intro. I like to make it seem like I'm more advanced in this than I really am. And for whatever reason, psychologically, I think an intro makes it seem like this person knows what they're doing. What drives me crazy are little things like where someone starts a video and you get the background noise or they're not looking at the camera, because you can very easily clean that up. Like you can have iMovie on your phone and edit a video on your phone. I don't think it takes much effort to get it to where you put a fade in to where it blurs in and then you're just talking. It just, to me, I think it makes it look a little bit more crisp. Hang on one second, a question. How long do I think an intro should be? I think my intro is too long. I think that if you have too much time on an intro, people may not get past it. But I really liked my intro, and I wanted to make sure early on I hit those people in there. So I think my intro is like 20 seconds long, maybe, with 18.7. A marketing person might tell you that's probably too long. You could probably do a quick intro of like 5 seconds. And depending on the video, I do that. So when I do my shorter videos, I just basically put some background music to my logo for like 3 seconds and then fade in. So that one's a lot quicker. But I think that, so I got 10 seconds, 15 seconds, somewhere in that line. I think it depends also if the intro is entertaining enough, people are going to watch it. So I wanted to have clips and show different people that I've had on, kind of leverage the guests that I've had to say, hey, I've had some interesting people on. You might want to watch this video. I look at like the Ritholtz guys, the Talk Your Book, and the other one they do, The Compound. I think their intro's very good. It's entertaining. I think if it's good, they'll watch it. If it's just boring, I think keep it shorter. So if you have more cutaways and stuff, you can make it a little bit longer. If it's just your logo, don't have your logo on there for 20 seconds. So that's the intro. The next piece is I want to drag in my conversation. So this is the video, that's 16 minutes. Now I want to show you something. I intentionally did this. This is the finished product because I upload all my videos to Vimeo as a backup. I have them all there private. All these are also on YouTube, but I look at Vimeo as my compliance of where I store all my videos. So every video, no matter how long, how short it is, lives up in Vimeo. So I downloaded this today. But to show you like how to cut things out, I don't want that intro in there twice. So when you come down to this picture, You line this, so this line that's moving is showing you where you are on the video. You want to line that up to where it's yellow to where you want to cut it. So then you can go up to the file, but I always just do Control click, and I want to split that clip. So you're going to see now there's a gap there. So now these are separate clips on their own. If you accidentally split, it's not a big deal. Like if I kept it,
welcome to another episode.
You don't see that clip as the viewer. So that split doesn't mess up the video, but now it gives you, I can drag this around. So I can move it if I wanted to, but I don't want this intro in, so I'll drop it there. I'm just going to delete it. So that is. Command B is another way you can, so I'm learning as I go. So Command B is another way that you can split it. So now I should have it where the intro goes,
another episode of
and now it goes into my video. So even though this is showing up, it's such a short amount that you don't actually see it. And another thing that's helpful, and I apologize if I'm all over the place, first time doing this, and this is kind of the way my mind works. So this is why I want to send this video to you, the link, or make it available on YouTube so you can play it back and forth. I mean, the way I learned a lot of this stuff is watching other people stopping and starting and trying to catch it. But this dial up here, I don't know what the official term of it is, but it shortens and lengthens the actual file. So this is condensed everything real small, or you can make it real big. So it's like every little move is minuscules of seconds. And where this helps is if you really need to get fine-tuned in your editing and stopping and fading. I really don't mess with that much. I try to keep it to where I can see things pretty easily. But there have been a few times I've had to make it real big so I could get into a specific spot to edit it out. Honestly, that's more helpful when you're doing audio. So if we go back, we've got the intro. It's gonna get over to the video. So there, in this gap here right now, you see this little bar. That means there's nothing in there. So this actually shows a little bit of a fade because I put that on the original file. But if you come up to transitions, these are little things that I think bring a little bit more production value that are simple. Like these are the things that I don't understand why people don't just put this in. You could do a 30-second video. At the very beginning, if you drag this cross blur, it just puts that little blur at the beginning. And as minor as that is, let me take that out. So you see my video starts right off the gate, which is not bad. But for whatever reason, and this is personal preference, I think that little blur in makes it look a little bit more professional. I don't know why, but I just think that looks like, hey, this person's putting time into it, and all I did was drag down a box. So they have all these different ones, and if you do it, it'll preview and it'll show you what it looks like. So like this will fade in, this will fade to white. I like the cross blur. Play around with this and see what you like, but I would drag and put that right in the middle. So now when it transitions from intro, it's going to fade into it. So again, I just like that production value of fading into it. So now this is a conversation between Taylor Schulte, Blake Street, myself. Again, you can see on the camera or on the table, there's my phone, and there's the lapel mics I just put out. So I didn't have my big fancy mic. I didn't have this microphone with me to put down because I was traveling. But the camera and the lapel mics are with me anytime I'm anywhere. Well, I don't bring with me my family, but anytime I have my backpack for work, I've got everything in there that I need to record a video just in case. You never know when the opportunity comes up. So that you can see that there. That's how I did it. This is a one and done. So it's a conversation. I just recorded it. And at the very end, what I would do, I already did this, but let's just pretend that this was the raw file from the conversation.
Yes. All right.
So as we finish, there's going to be, normally you would see me get up, walk over to the camera. Well, I don't want the viewer to see that. And let's just say that the outro is that footage. So this outro right here, I don't want to be a part of the video because it's me walking over. When it's at the end, you could split it again, or you can just come over here and you can drag things in and shorten the film. When it comes to, I think it's easier to do the split because you get it exactly. You don't have to try to figure it out. But now that's done. So now I've got my intro. I've got the video that I want. Come back up here to my media. Again, that's where I downloaded all those photos and the videos and the audio that I want to use. So in my media, this is my outro. I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to go back. I'm going to put my cross blur transition in. And now I've got the transition out.
Man, that was awesome.
And then you can put whatever you want to put there. So now I have different people with it. How did I get music to the intro, outro? It's going to be very similar to what I'm going to show you in the next phase. So the next phase I want to be, okay, I'm showing you this if the audio from the camera is perfect. If you notice, I didn't mess with the audio on this picture. And if you don't know where the audio is, so here's our image. You can see the image on top. And then down here in the blue, that is the audio. If this were the real footage from the camera, we would have a lot of background noise from the air. And what you can do is you can drag this up and down. So if I were to play this now, there's no sound. So I've muted it all the way. And you can also do that up here. There's these gauges up here. But I just like to drag it. And I have an idea. I'm okay with a few of the bars going over the yellow, but you want to try to avoid a lot of red because that's what gets the speakers crackling. So this was recording as if the audio from the camera was perfect. So all you needed to do was trim the beginning, trim the end, put your intro, outro, and you're done. The next thing you do is you come up to this little button up here and you export it. And that exportation goes to different places. So what I will do is I'll export it to YouTube. So you link it to your YouTube channel and it will put it up there. And then you can go in and tailor some of the data that you want to put in there. And you can pre some of it. So if I do that, it's going to ask me for the title. So I'll title it, put a little description. I don't know if you should do tags and things. Those are things I don't spend time learning, but I don't do any tags. You can choose the resolution if you want it to be private or not. And then you hit next and it sends it out there. And if it's a longer video, it takes a little while. So I set it and I go do some other stuff. Come check on it later. And then the next thing I do, excuse me, once it's up there, I'll come back. I'll do the same thing to Vimeo. So I have my Vimeo account linked up. I'll send it over. I have it viewable only to me, so you can't go in and see my Vimeo videos. I just solely have that for compliance reasons. And I'll show you one little tip that I'm real big on video because you can turn it into a bunch of different pieces of content. If you come here, there's file. So YouTube sends it to YouTube. Vimeo sends it to Vimeo. I've never sent it to Facebook. I've never sent it to iTunes. I've never messed around with image. But I do the file, especially for shorter videos. If you do file, now this is going to create an MP4 file on your hard drive. And then from there, you can upload it to different places. So why would you want to do that? If your video is under 2 minutes, you can put it directly into Twitter and it will autoplay. Rather than people on Twitter having to go out to YouTube to watch it, you just put it in, it'll autoplay under 2 minutes. LinkedIn is under 10 minutes. So I mentioned earlier the captions. That's where the captions can kind of come play and help out. And I see questions in there. I'll come back to them in a second. So I create that file. I'll upload it into LinkedIn if it's short enough, Twitter if it's short enough, so it auto plays because you want people to see it. Same thing on Facebook. I have a Facebook page for clients. I take my weekend review video and I just put it directly in there because there's not a limit to that as well. So file, we'll put it there. The other piece of information is you see here it says format, video and audio. You can come in here and export just the audio. And then now you have just the audio track that you could put in, make your podcast. You can make it an Amazon skill, which is what I've started doing as well. So now you've got your video on YouTube, you've got it on the other platforms. Now you can strip that audio out, and if it's good enough, if the communication's good enough, then you can use that for a podcast. So with my reversion to the mean podcast, Kevin and I record. We use Zoom for the video aspect of it. I will line up the audio that we use, create the YouTube video, and then for reversion to the means podcast, I'm just exporting it from iMovie. I take it to GarageBand and chop it up. I'm not relining everything up again. So that's a nice way to get a YouTube video and podcast or skill at the same time, or you can use it however you want. You could do little short blips and put the little pictures with the words and just do little things as well. There's a lot of opportunity, which is why I love video so much. Plus, I think there's no better way for somebody to judge you, whether or not they're going to like you, than video. They get to see what you look like. They get to see your mannerisms, hear the way you talk, see your movements, and I think that people can make a much better judgment of whether or not they like you than if it's just reading a blog. So I like video for those reasons. All right, before I go on, let me hit a couple questions up. How do I drop in static images? Yep, I can show you static images. So all you would do there, this is just my company logo. let's say I didn't want this fancy logo. Again, you import whatever you want. Images, video, audio tracks all come in. You just do the same thing. You put it, say you put it right here. What if you want it in the middle of the video? You could do a couple things. You could do the chopping. So you could Command B, and I could drop that in like this. So now it's in the middle. It's going to cut away. You can also, let me get this, just drag it on top. And whatever's on top is what they're going to show.
So I'll let Taylor go first. What was?
I don't know why you would want to do one over the other. I don't know what the difference is, other than if this was another video, you have this, the audio there. But that's how you could get a still image in there as well. So if it were me with just a still image, I'm going to chop it and then drop it in, just because to me, visually, I can see that it makes sense. And I do the same thing when it comes to doing multiple videos. So let's say I'm doing those cutaways, and I'll maybe do this in a future one, but just since we're talking about it, you could drag this up here, and then
advisors, they're all in different places.
It goes back. So whatever's on top is what it's going to play. So I could line up my two video tracks, and I could cut and drop and edit things that way and line them up so I can make sure everything matches up, or you can just keep it in here. So that's how you get a still image in there. And from time to time, that makes sense. You may be, so I do a whiteboard video, and I did one on the inverted yield curve last summer, and I would do a cutaway to me drawing the inverted yield curve or a picture of it, and it was me talking cutaway. I just did what I just did there. I chopped it, put it in, and then goes back to the video that I want. So let me take that out. Can I make the cross blur longer? Let's find out. I believe the answer is yes, but I'm not positive. I would think you could drag it, or you could come up here to the time. Maybe not. It's a good question. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to tell you things I don't know. I've never messed with it. And with cross blurs, one thing I've figured out is you want to give yourself a little bit of time from when you want that cross blur to bleed into when you start talking. Meaning, don't start talking right away. You want to give a second. So let's say I walk in front of my camera, I come over, give myself a second before I start talking, because the cross blur, I want that cross blur to end with me talking, not cross blur while I'm still talking. I mean, if you did, it's not a big deal, but just little things like that I picked up over the time. So Ryan, I don't know for sure if we can make the cross blur longer or not. The ways that I thought it would work did not work for me, so I don't know. I guess maybe you could do this. Can you hit two cross blurs again? Nope. I thought maybe you could hit two cross blurs back to back, but it did not do that. So is video better for compliance than just using YouTube? So Josh, the reason I use Vimeo is I do some shorter clips that I don't necessarily want on YouTube. I want my YouTube channel to be a resource that is just all educational, informational. And sometimes I'll do like a teaser video that I put on LinkedIn, or I put on Twitter only, but I wouldn't want on my YouTube channel. So I use Vimeo to have every video, long and short. So that's the only reason. I think that so don't quote me on this, but I remember reading that if you subscribe to your YouTube channel, that could act as documentation of your videos, because every time you post, you're going to get notification that you posted a video, and that could serve as your record of postings. I'm not a compliance officer, so I don't know if that's 100% true, but I do remember reading that. How do I best line up audio with separate videos? I'll show you that here in the next one. So any other questions over just the basic, you got the video you wanted for a shot. We don't need to chop it up. We're not doing a lot of editing. We just want our messaging to be out there. Intro, outro, bang. That's the first video. So let me see if I can edit these back out. That won't matter. Okay. So next phase would be, all right, audio sucks because we're outside, but we had our handy dandy lapel mics. What do we do from that point? So I already outported. I did not. Hang on one second. I thought I already put this in there. I apologize, guys. I sent over the audio from Blake and Taylor. Well, let me do that. Let me send it to myself real quick. Hang on one second. And while I'm doing that, any other questions on the basics of getting started or equipment? 327. And I'll have it here just in a second. So luckily, I haven't gone back and deleted all the recordings I did using the Rode mic. Okay, there we go. All right, let me bring, so you're gonna see bringing in. So I'm gonna come, I put it on my desktop and import selected. So now it's gonna bring in, so this is the new file coming in. It'll take a second. So this is all the audio from this video. So this is actually what I had to do. So I bring this audio down and I'm gonna mute all of these because I don't want that audio because it sucks. Here's the audio from the actual video. So now the only trick to this, which takes a little bit of time, is making sure you line it up, which I would recommend in doing that, keeping these up just loud enough that you can hear it as well. And what you want to go for is you can visually see it, do the words line up to the mouth, but if you get it lined up, it almost sounds like an echo between the sounds. So I don't know if these are going to line up perfectly. Hang on. So you can hear.
To another episode of Talking Shop, I promise.
So you can hear the two tracks going. So I think I'm going to be able to do this. Put me on the spot. I'm a little nervous, but we'll see if I can get it done. So at this point, this beginning part is extra. It's me talking to Blake and Taylor saying, hey, let's get ready to go. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take this audio track and get it to where you want it to start. And you can chop it as well, but for this one, I always like to just drag it. And then I'm going to try to line it up. So this should be pretty close.
Talking Shop, I promise you. All right, welcome to.
So you can hear, so what I'm going through when I do this, let me do it again. Hey, can you guys hear the sound? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear the sound. Okay. So you're going to hear a faint voice, which is the video audio. That's the one we want to get rid of. And then you're going to hear the louder, which is the green track. So listen.
Talking Shop, I promise you. All right, welcome to another episode.
So now I have a delay. So at this point, I need to just drag this back a little bit further. And it's just a little bit of trial and error. Let me get rid of this. So this is where I might come over here, make everything a little bit bigger so I can get a little bit closer to the start of the audio. Let's see if this is better.
All right, welcome to another episode.
So we're getting closer.
So the Talking Shop, I promised you, in the one with Peter. Episode of Talking Shop. All right,
Well, I may not get it on the spot, but.
All right, welcome to another episode of Talking Shop.
It's close. So that's all you end up doing. I'm not going to waste your time doing it, but that's what you have to do. It takes a little bit of time, but I promise you can do it because I've had to do it on all my videos. So it is doable.
All right, welcome to another.
It's close.
Episode of Talking.
I was hoping to get it so you could hear the echo.
Episode of Talking. All right, well.
All right, I'll give it one more try and then we'll move on.
All right, welcome to another episode
All right.
of Talking Shop.
But that's all you're going to do. You're going to line it up. It takes a little bit of time, but the more you do it, the better you get. And once you get them lined up, like I said, it will sound like an echo. Once you get them lined up and visually you can see that it looks like it looks right, come back up, drop those all. I'll drop those all down, and usually there'll be one file, so you drop it down once. And now this is going to be the audio that you're going to hear to go along with the video. And then everything else is the same. As you get more complex, like when I do my podcasts, I have two audio tracks, so you've got to line up both people, and then sometimes you have to shift things a little bit because there's a little bit of drift, but that's another video for another day. But on the basics, if you're using this mic, that's how you do it. You import the sound, you bring it down underneath it, you line it up, and then you mute the videos or the camera's audio, and you run with the audio from the mics. So yes, so Brett, I am replacing the video audio with the audio from the microphone. And that just gives you a better sound. It's much more crisp. You have a lot less wind. It may not be perfect, but I promise you, in a scenario like that, the audio I got from the mics was much better than the camera because the camera was so far away to get all three of us in there, and it was windy. We were at a mall. Like it was crazy loud. You could still hear us, but this was a lot better. And it's still not perfect, but it gets the job done. So any questions over that? Everything else is the same. Intro, outro, fading, all that stuff is the same. One thing you can do, so let's say you want to put music to it. So this is what you would do to like your intro. Or on my shorter videos, I tend to like to have some background music as well. So same thing, I'm going to drag my background music. You're going to hear it. So that's the background music. And you can adjust the volume. So just like I would adjust the volume up here, and obviously you're going to want the voice audio to be louder. You can come down here and drag the music lower.
Talking shop, I promised you in the one with Peter that I was
well, let's get to
generous of him.
So that you can't hear the background. So I can drag this down. So now you want to make sure, and this is just an ear test. Maybe have somebody else test it, but let me get these back up. To where you hear the music in my ear, you hear the music, but it doesn't distract you from the message. That's what I go.
Following up on what Peter and I talked about in the previous summit. It's kind of,
you get to that level. But one of the things you can consider doing is, all right, do you see this little dot right here, right at the very beginning? That will control a fade in or a fade out of the sound. So you can drag this, and what that's going to do is the music's going to fade into it. I don't know if this is important to do at the beginning, but let's just do this at the end. So let's delete this. I bring my music back in. Let's say I want to put my logo in at the end just to fade out into. I do like to fade my music on the way out. So let's shorten this up. And again, there might be more efficient ways to like shorten this audio track up. This is just what I do every time. It doesn't take very long. I'm self-taught and I just figured things out. So there might be more efficient ways. But so now I've got my music there, and then I like to, this is going to be a longer outro than you want. Again, going back to little things that I think give it good production that show people I care enough to spend a little bit more time. So the music's going to be there.
awesome.
And I like for my image to end as the music is fading out. Like I don't like abrupt stops if I can avoid it. So you can hear the music drag out. And honestly, with my ear, this is getting very nitpicky. I'm actually going to bring it out a little bit further because I don't really like where in that track it ends. To me, it feels stopped. I really want to try to make it, if somebody sticks with all the way, I really want to try to make it to where it fades to where you don't hear it. It's just kind of a natural fade. So I feel a little bit better. I probably would drag it out a little bit more. But I feel better about that fade. Again, that doesn't take very much time. Most people might not notice if you don't do it, but I think some people might notice that, hey, that faded out. That was pretty slick. Maybe they stop before they ever see it and you're just wasting your time. So that's something I would recommend to consider on the audio track. Now that you see that this RLS Wealth Management looks kind of funky. So if you come, get this highlighted, up here is where you can start doing some effects to it. You can crop it. Or they have these, you can do crop to fill. This Ken Burns does a fading thing that I never use. I would crop this, and actually I would use a different image to where the whole page would be filled. But let's just say you want to do this. It'll help you center it up. And then now my image looks a lot better on the outro.
That was awesome.
So now it's more centered. But if I was making this a real video, I would have had cropped my picture. There's another one that I have. I just pulled the wrong one in to where this whole screen is filled with the color so it's not blacked out. But for today, that's how you did. So that's how you change that. Another stylistic thing that I do, when the video track or the video is highlighted, if you come up here to this little 3 circles, it's going to open up this clip filter. And the clip filter brings up all these different filters, like Instagram type filters that you can add to it.
Our advisors, they're all in different places.
So you can click on it to see what does it make your film look like. So you can add this little film to make it look old school, different things on it. The one I always use without fail, I always use this vignette. And all it does is kind of black out the corners, but I've found that makes it look a little bit more crisp. But play around with those. I think that's another minor thing that you can add to it that will give it a little bit more production value to make it look like you spent more time on it and you're paying somebody when really all it is clicking a filter and iMovie's doing it for you. Honestly, this is one of the reasons I didn't like Final Cut Pro. I couldn't figure out how to do the filters. And although my camera shoots 4K, I like the way that puts more of a polished look on it. So I would look at the filter just to crisp it up a little bit and play around with that. There's a lot of other features up here that I don't spend much time in. I don't do much with messing with the color. I definitely don't do anything here. From time to time, so if you wanted to do some slow motion stuff, and this is where Blake does a lot of this stuff that's good, but in your transitions or if you wanted to have a bunch of different films, you can like do slow-mo and speed those things up. I've done them before. It's not real hard. I'll save that for another one. If enough people are interested in kind of how do you do speed up, slow downs, we'll do another one because you got to chop things up and line things up. It's a little bit more, there's more to it, but it's still not very hard. You can mess with the sound. Let's say you forgot your mics and you have a lot of background noise, then this will allow you to work with some of the background noise here. It's not perfect, but it does a little bit better job than nothing at all. I don't mess with any of this stuff. This is your slow-mo stuff. So there's different features you can mess with, but really I don't spend much time in this banner up here other than let me put my filter in to crisp it up and maybe every once in a while mess with the sound. But that's about it up there. I don't do much with audio here. Titles, this is where you can start making your own. Like when I did for the intro, you just basically click your title, you bring it down, and then now you click on this and you type away. So FinTwit, video editing. So now it's there, and if you start it, it's going to pop itself up and fade to you. So I know there's other programs that have better intros and outros and more fancy things. Honestly, I would love to do more of that. I just haven't figured out how to do them, and it's not necessary. What I would really love to get to is I would love to have nameplates slide in that I could put the other advisor's firm's logo on and put their name. I have one made for me, but I can't use it anymore because it has the SEMA designation on it, and I let that lapse. So I need to get that guy to do it again. But I think it'd be cool. I think there's more to doing that than I realize, and it takes a little bit more work. But that's the type of stuff I would like to do. But there's all these different ones. When you mess with them, when you drag over it, it'll give you an idea of what it's going to do. You pick the title that you want, and they have all these different ones to use. Backgrounds, I never mess with this. Sounds like green screen through Keynote would be a better place for Blake. And then transitions I do use. So that is everything on recording outside using the exterior mics. You can do the same thing. Let's say you don't have the lapel mics, but you've got a couple of these mics that you're recording into. It's the same thing. You take the audio from these microphones, you upload them to iMovie, you drag them down, and you just line everything up. And again, the lining up for a little while is tedious, and it takes some time to get used to. But once you get good at it, what you'll begin to be able to do is you'll be able to identify the spikes in the audio track up here to the spikes down here, and that gets you real close because it's the same audio, it's just two different tracks, and you're able to see those, but it just comes with time and practice. Let's see if I have any questions real quick. Best source for finding intro, outro, audio music. So somebody said bensound.com. Blake did, bensound.com. I'm a big hip-hop fan, so I want every audio track to be hip-hop. So I use, hang on, something beats. BeatStars. I go to beatstars.com, and it is nothing but people who have uploaded these beats, and you can buy them and buy different licenses. To be honest with you, I buy a license. The license shows you can use it for like 500,000 downloads or on one song. I don't think those licenses are really drawn up for like YouTube videos or things of that sort. So I don't know if I'll ever lose the license to it. That's an area that maybe I should admit this on film. But I view it as I'm paying the artist for this. It looks like I have 500,000 uses out of it. I don't have any video that's close to it. And if I come to that later on, I'll figure that out. But I have, when you download it, you get an official license to document that you paid for it. So just do all the things the best you can. But I use BeatStars because I like the hip hop beats, and it can be overwhelming because you've got thousands of beats to go through. But I love that stuff. Like if I wasn't a financial advisor, I would love to be a music producer and be Dr. Dre on the boards, listen to stuff. So for me, I actually enjoy doing that. You could outsource that to somebody if you wanted to, but I only have maybe 5 or 6 tracks. So what I've chosen to do is for all whiteboard series videos, they have the same track to them. All of my talking shops, the same track. So that way I only need 4 or 5, and I just use those for those. But BeatStars is where I go. No other questions. So the next thing, the final thing I want to show you real quick is just expanding upon the little things we've done. But let's say you want to make an intro with all those different clips like I did. Let's just pretend that I spliced these up. So let's pretend these clips right here are actually 5 different clips from up here. So what you've already gone through is you've gone through a video that you've recorded. You've identified what part of that video you want to use in the intro or outro. You've clipped it, and you've exported as a file. So that's when you would use this. Just do the file, you create that file, and now you've brought them all into iMovie. Hopefully that all makes sense. So again, you've gone through, you've identified video that you want to use, you've trimmed it down so where it's just 3 seconds of that video, you saved it as a file, and now you've brought it into iMovie. You just line them up in the order that you want and just use different transitions. That's all I did. So I put one transition here, I did another transition there, I did a transition there. I put my background music to it just like this. And then I looked at it to make sure I didn't want to make any changes. So I would kind of go, I'd shorten it up, make sure the transition looked good, and then I'd export it. And now I have my intro, outro. Save that intro, outro as a file so you can just always have it in there and drag it in and out. So that's all I did to create the intro and outro. It wasn't anything fancy. It wasn't a lot of thought other than, okay, who are the people I want to highlight in my intro, outro? Use a little bit of star power if I can to say, hey, oh, he had him on his video? Okay. Because one, I think that audiences, if they recognize those people, that might help. And secondly, if I ask you to come on my video, do a talk and shop with me, you look through and you see certain people, like, okay, if those people did it, then why wouldn't I do it? So that was my thought behind that. But you could do it a bunch of different ways. Any questions? Like I said, my goal for today was to give anybody that's on the edge wanting to do video the confidence that you can go figure this out. It's simple. It's simple hardware. I think this camera is $600. These mics were, I think, $200. So let's just say you spent $1,000 for what you need to get going. Hopefully you already have some audio or some video equipment on the computer that you have, but there's some low-cost stuff out there. So for $1,000, you're off and running, creating video and putting it out there. I'm sure throughout your career, you've probably spent more than $1,000 on other marketing initiatives. I would look at this as a marketing budget. And now you're getting content that you can reuse, recycle, take a video, turn it into a podcast. You can take the video audio, load it up into Rev. It'll dictate it into Word, and then you can create that into a written blog post if you wanted to as well. So there's so much that could come from it. But I also think that video is the best way for people to know you, and not a lot of advisors are doing it, and not a lot of advisors are doing it well. I don't know if I'm doing it well. I'm having fun. I'm getting good feedback from it. And there's little things that you can do that I think will help separate your video from everybody else. Like I said, most people, they're going to record on their phone. There's nothing wrong with that. There's going to be a hard intro, a hard out, meaning it's not very clean. And if you come in here with a little bit of audio coming in, it fades out to your logo or to wherever you want to send them to, I think that production value speaks to your attention to detail as a financial advisor. And it would tell me as a client that hopefully if he spends this much this time on the editing of his video, he's going to spend that much time on my financial plan. I mean, it could tell the other story. He's spending all his time over here. My financial plan sucks. I guess you run that risk. But as you can see, it doesn't take very much time. So we're bumping up on an hour. I'm happy to answer any more questions. It's still recording, so I think we should have some good video to share. But again, it's not real hard. I wanted everybody to see it is pretty easy. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's not that steep. and I think it's worth the time to do it. The hardest thing is going to be finding the content to create it, but if you've got enough to say, you can do it. So I'll knock this off. Any other questions? I'll take that as a no. I'll hang for a second. And if not, if you're done and want to drop, my plan is edit this video, obviously put an intro, outro, clean it up, put my my filter on it so it looks good, and then I'll put it on YouTube and I'll tweet out that it's done. And then if you want the link, I'll be able to send the link to, I can email it to you through Zoom. It'll email you a link to download it. I'll send it to you as well so you can watch it back and play around with it. But I'm trying to think if there's anything I missed from what I do with Zoom, but I don't think so. It's pretty easy. You import it, you drag it down, you do a little bit of chopping, line the audio up if you need to, do whatever little features as far as intro, outro, titles you might want to do, and then export it to YouTube. I do the video backup at Vimeo, and then put it on your platforms. All right, so I think that there may be the opportunity in the future to expand upon this. As more people are doing the videos, we can talk about some of the slow motion thing. I'm happy to do that because honestly, I'm learning some new things as I go. And if I want to be a good, I don't want to say teacher, but if I want to help you, I've got to make sure I understand it as well. So it helps me fine tune my skills to be able to do more. At the end of the day, I want my videos in 2 or 3 years to be better than what I'm doing today. And that's only going to be through trying new things. So don't be afraid to try it. You're going to mess up. Oh, and speaking of messing up, my final thing, they don't have to be perfect. I did a video on, I can't remember what it was, but I said the wrong, basically I said, like, I was talking about the 80-20 rule about diet, and there's my rant about fitness. And I said it's 80% nutrition, 20% diet. And I didn't catch it until after I was editing the video. And I thought, I'm not re-recording that. So I just went back in and I put a title over that spot and said, meant this, whoops. Like, I said the wrong thing. And I guess if somebody is blind and can't see that I put that title in, they miss out and they might think I'm an idiot. But I just identified that I made a mistake. But I wasn't going to go back and re-record it because everything else about it was good. So I just fixed it so you could see it. I'm a human. It's authentic. I think people want to see that. Don't get so dead set that you have to have everything perfect. I think Taylor always says this, perfection is the enemy of good or something like that. If you always want it to be perfect, you're always going to find a reason. The lighting's not perfect. You said something funny. You messed up a word. That's all okay. As long as the overall messaging is right and the information you're giving is good, people are going to be okay if you stumble over your words or restart something. Like, to me, I don't think it's a big deal. So I think you just do it, put it out there. You're going to get better with time. You're going to get more comfortable with time. And the editing is going to be easier as well. For the non-Apple users, any top of mind suggestions? I don't know of any other good ones. I think Adobe has some stuff you can edit in, but I don't know. So my answer to you, Jeremy, since you're a friend, would be I'm also, in full disclosure, an Apple shareholder. Go buy a Mac. Help Mac sales go up so my stock price goes up. Everybody's got a little bit of Apple in their ETFs anyway, so I don't know. I would just do a Google search, what's the best PC editing, and see what the reviews are, but I can't speak to that. All right, we're right at 3 o'clock Eastern time, so if there's no other questions, and if any other ones come up, just hit me up. You guys know I try to make myself available and help out, but thanks for trusting me to help you kind of on your way towards doing video. But again, the selfish motivation in this to me is I want to make my YouTube channel extremely valuable to people who follow it. So obviously I'm going to have my content on there as well, but I want to highlight other things that other people are doing that maybe I didn't do. So go out there and create some good videos so I can put you on my YouTube channel, link back to you, which is good, and then everything is better. So hit me up, and if there's interest, I'll do more and figure out some more things we can talk about. I may do a podcasting one too as well, just to show how easy it is to edit a podcast. It's not too different from this. If you can figure out iMovie, you can figure out GarageBand or Audacity or whatever it is out there for podcasting. And no matter what anybody says, you're not too late to getting into video. You're not too late to getting into podcasts. There can't be too many of them because at the end of the day, you're only looking for an audience of a certain amount. You don't have to have the 35,000 download a day Stacking Benjamins podcast. You can have the average of what 124, but there's 124 loyal listeners or loyal viewers. That's all you need. So don't get hung up on your analytics. I very rarely look at my views because it's not going to be where I would want it to be. And I'm not trying to compare myself to other people. I'm just doing this, and I'm in the belief of the more content I put out there, the better. And eventually one day this thing's going to blow up, and I'm going to have all this content, and it's going to be worth it all. So, and then the final thing, I am seeing traction from all of the video and the content that I'm creating. So it takes time. Don't give up on it. It's the one that you don't think will be very good that people will pick up. But I'm getting prospects mentioning they saw my video or they saw my blog, or people referring me to other people, and they do their research. And if you Google me, all those things come up. So it's good for verifying referrals as well. So it's worth it, even if it takes a little bit of time. Don't give up on it. And with that, I'll let you guys all get to your weekends. Thanks for being interested in this. Thanks for letting me do this. I had a lot of fun, and looking forward to seeing more videos out there.